Oh, Mapo Tofu.
Oh, my favorite.
That one I have the feeling is the killer.
On June 8 of 2018, the world woke up to the tragic news that Anthony Bourdain has passed away. He was working on an episode of Parts Unknown with his friend Eric Repair. When Anthony missed both dinner and breakfast, Eric started to worry. And on that fateful day, Eric found that his good friend has unfortunately committed suicide in his room in the Le Chambard Hotel. So on today's episode of Historical Recipes, we're going to pay tribute to the late and great Anthony Bourdain by learning a little bit about his life and how to make his favorite dish, Mapo Tofu. So let's celebrate Anthony's life together by learning this recipe. This one's for you, Anthony. So Mapo Tofu comes from the Sichuan province of China, which is known for pandas and its spicy cuisine. Now you can find this recipe in the description below, but you will need tofu, dried shiitake mushrooms, spicy fermented bean paste, fermented black beans, chili flakes, minced garlic, Szechuan peppercorns, and if you want you can add some minced beef or pork as well. Let's start with our dried shiitake mushrooms, give them a good rinse, add them to a pot with 2 cups of water and bring it to a gentle boil for about 10 minutes. Once done, fish out the mushrooms and keep the stock for later. And when the mushrooms are cool enough to handle, dice them nicely into cubes. Now with our diced mushrooms and mushroom stock, we're ready to bring our dish to the next level because they're rich in glutamic acid, which is responsible for the taste of umami. For the Szechuan peppercorns, let's toast them lightly in a pan over medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once you can smell the aromas of the Szechuan peppercorns intensify, take it off the heat, put it in a mortar and start pounding and grinding it until you get a fine nice powder like this. Set it aside for later. Now for our tofu, let's use a medium firm tofu. We want to make sure that the tofu is not too soft or it may break apart in the wok. When slicing our tofu, let's make a horizontal cut in the center and vertical cuts along the sides so we can end up with cubes. Next, place your tofu on a ladle and then simmer it in some lightly salted water. This step has 3 functions. It helps to firm out the tofu, it helps to cook out the raw grassy notes, and it helps to season the tofu as well. Because we want to avoid breaking our tofu in the pot, use the back of your ladle and gently push it around. After 2 to 3 minutes, take your pot off the heat and drain your tofu. Now heat up your wok and add about 2 tablespoons of oil. When your oil is almost smoking hot, add your minced beef or pork. Give this a good fry for about a minute to allow the meat to brown nicely. Next, add your shiitake mushrooms and about 2 to 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. Fry this up for another minute or so, then add your fermented bean paste or Dou Ban Jiang, your fermented black beans which you can mince up beforehand, and your chili flakes. As we fry this up for about 2 to 3 minutes as we allow the flavors to intensify, we have just enough time to learn about the history of the man known as Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain was born on June 25, 1956 in New York City and was raised in Leona, New Jersey. As a child, he was inspired by books and films, and his passion for food began during a family trip to France where he first tasted an oyster. He eventually pursued a culinary education at the Culinary Institute of America and graduated in 1978. He then spent decades working as a chef in New York City and most notably became the executive chef of a French bistro named Léal. In the year 2000, he published his memoir, Kitchen Confidential, and this book became an instant bestseller and changed the trajectory of his career. Anthony found himself transitioning from chef to food host and launched travel shows such as The Cook's Tour, No Reservations, and Parts Unknown. Unlike other food shows, Bourdain's work was very raw and authentic as he delved into political, social, and cultural issues in the countries that he visited. His interest in the food, the people, and the stories behind them was what really made him so endearing to his audience and why he is so missed today. Anthony's legacy is his continued ability to inspire us with the food and the stories he has shared, so thank you Anthony from all of us. Now back to the recipe. It's time for us to add about 1 cup worth of the mushroom stock that we prepared earlier, followed by 1 to 1.5 teaspoons worth of sugar and 1 to 1.5 teaspoons worth of Shaoxing rice wine. Now is a good time to taste the sauce. I found that different brands of Dou Ban Jiang fermented chili bean paste have different levels of sodium, so you should adjust as you go along. Now it's time to add the tofu that we prepared earlier. We want to give the tofu the chance to absorb all the amazing flavors that are in the wok. So allow this to simmer gently for about 3 to 4 minutes. As before, when you're moving the tofu around, use the back of your ladle so you don't end up breaking it so we can have nice big chunks. Now let's add our cornstarch slurry and simmer this for about 1 more minute on a gentle heat. Once your sauce thickens up, turn off the heat and it's time to serve. Of course, you can adjust the consistency as you like. If you want it thicker, add more starch. If you want it thinner, add more stock. Now look at this amazing bowl of Mapo Tofu, but before we tuck in, we have one last step. Grab the Szechuan peppercorns that we prepared earlier and sprinkle it over your Mapo Tofu. And there you have it, a bowl of Mapo Tofu that I would be proud to serve to Anthony Bourdain. Now for the taste test, as you can tell, I was clearly excited for this. The Mapo Tofu smelled really fragrant, and when I had my first bite, there was an explosion of flavors. The spice from the Dou Ban Jiang and the chili flakes, the numbing bite from the Szechuan Peppercorns, and the umami from the Shitake Mushrooms all marry very well together. I love how bouncy the tofu is, the texture is just amazing in your mouth. And of course, we can't have this dish without rice, it's Chinese cuisine after all, so let's try this with rice right now. If you're naughty like me, you can even add more Szechuan peppercorns. Now the rice actually absorbed all the flavor from the sauce, so it actually complements the dish so well. To me, this is pure comfort food, so why don't you try making this dish at home? And of course, feel free to pair this with one of Anthony's travel shows playing in the background.